The question isn't who is going to let me, it's who is going to stop me. There are certain words that do not merely echo in the air for a fleeting moment but instead carve themselves into the soul. Ayn Rand's declaration, "The question isn't who is going to let me, it's who is going to stop me," is one of those rare expressions that transcends time, context, and circumstance. At first glance, the phrase seems bold, almost defiant. It rejects the notion of passivity, of waiting for permission, of relying on external validation. It is a call to arms for the human spirit, a command that the only authority that truly governs our lives is not the crowd, not institutions, not gatekeepers, but our own will and determination. Human history is filled with individuals who either conformed to rules set by others or who broke away, blazing new trails. The former group often vanishes into the silence of forgotten generations, while the latter are remembered in the annals of progress. What separates the remarkable from the ordinary is often not greater intelligence, better circumstances, or superior talent, but an unshakable refusal to wait for permission to act. The true pioneers are those who have asked not, "Will they allow me?" but, "Who, if anyone, has the power to stop me?" At the heart of this quote lies a profound philosophy of personal sovereignty. To live authentically means to claim ownership of one's own life. Too many people waste their years hesitating at the threshold of opportunity, looking around for a nod of approval, fearing the disapproval of family, friends, bosses, or society at large. Rand's words confront this tendency head-on. She dismisses the entire framework of permission. Instead, she elevates the individual above the collective. Life, she argues, is not about waiting for the doors of opportunity to be opened by others, but about walking through, even if it means pushing against those who would try to keep them closed. This spirit of defiance is not arrogance, it is necessity. To ask, "Who will let me?" is to admit weakness. It suggests that someone else controls the trajectory of your life, that your dreams, ambitions, and desires exist only at the mercy of others' decisions. It places the reins of your destiny in another's hands. By contrast, to ask, "Who is going to stop me?" is to reframe life entirely. It assumes that your course of action is already chosen, that you are committed, that you move forward unless forcibly restrained. It is the mindset of conquerors, inventors, revolutionaries, and creators. Consider the countless young minds who hesitate before pursuing what they truly want. A child wants to be an artist, but waits to see if parents approve. A young adult wants to start a business but looks first for the validation of investors or mentors. A worker dreams of leaving their job to travel or write, but asks, "Will society accept this choice?" The very question betrays a lack of conviction. Those who stand out, those who live lives of meaning, rarely wait for anyone's blessing. They act, and through their actions, they prove that permission is irrelevant. What matters is persistence, discipline, and courage in the face of opposition. Rand's quote resonates with particular urgency in the modern world, where conformity often wears the mask of security. Schools, workplaces, governments, and social media often reinforce the idea that we must fit into prescribed roles. Success, we are told, looks like a stable job, a mortgage, a retirement plan. Dreams outside these boundaries are considered reckless, even selfish. Yet all progress, technological, artistic, social, has come from those who refuse to accept the limits imposed by the majority. To them, the question was never, "Who will let me?" but rather, "Can they stop me? And if they try, will I let them succeed?" Thus, the introduction of this exploration is more than a reflection, it is an invitation. Over the course of this essay, we will examine the deeper layers of Rand's philosophy. We will unpack the idea of permission and resistance, and how these forces shape human ambition. We will explore stories of those who lived by this creed, from historical figures to fictional characters. And we will challenge ourselves to see whether we too have been waiting too long for someone else to let us, rather than simply moving forward. Ultimately, this essay seeks not just to analyze a quote, but to awaken within the reader the spirit of boldness it calls for. For the real question is not, what will they allow, but what will you dare to do, and who, if anyone, can stop you? The philosophy behind the quote. The question isn't who is going to let me, it's who is going to stop me. At its core, Ayn Rand's declaration is not just a rebellious slogan, it is a profound philosophical stance on individualism, agency, and the nature of freedom. To grasp the depth of this idea, we must examine the mental framework it challenges and the worldview it proposes in its place. 1. The myth of permission. Most societies, consciously or unconsciously, cultivate in their citizens a dependency on permission. From early childhood, individuals are trained to ask, "May I?" before they act. A child asks permission to speak in class, to go outside, to pursue a hobby. An employee asks permission from a manager to take initiative, to explore new ideas, even sometimes to use their own vacation days. This constant reliance on external approval molds people into waiting for validation before they move forward. Yet, when we look closer, this culture of permission is an illusion. Much of what people ask permission for does not truly require it. To create, to think, to imagine, to dream, to start, none of these need approval from others. And yet, countless dreams die stillborn because someone feared stepping outside the lines without a nod from authority. Rand's quote slices through this illusion, declaring that waiting for permission is itself a form of bondage. To live authentically, we must move from, "Who will let me?" to, "Who will stop me?" 2. From passive to active mindset. Asking, "Who will let me?" places you in the position of a subject, one who is acted upon rather than acting. It implies dependency, your success or failure lies in the hands of others. In contrast, asking, "Who will stop me?" is the declaration of an active agent. It assumes ownership of choice. It does not ask if action is possible, but asserts that action is already underway. Unless forcibly blocked. This shift in language creates a shift in thought. It mirrors the psychological principle that words shape perception. By reframing the question, we transform hesitation into momentum. No longer do we await approval, we assume movement and only recognize opposition if it arises. The individual becomes the center of agency, not society. 3. The connection to free will. The philosophy embedded in Rand's statement echoes the timeless debate about free will. If one waits for permission, they imply that their choices are constrained by the decisions of others. But if one believes in the sovereignty of free will, then the only true question is, what will I choose to do, and can anyone actually prevent me? This belief in radical self-determination aligns with many philosophical traditions. The existentialists, for instance, argued that individuals must confront the responsibility of freedom. Jean-Paul Sartre emphasized that man is condemned to be free, to make choices without excuses. Similarly, Nietzsche's concept of the will to power suggests that life itself strives toward expansion, growth, and overcoming. Rand's statement reflects a similar ethos: the human being is not a passive creature but a force of will, meant to shape reality. 4. Individualism versus collectivism. Rand was known for her defense of individualism over collectivism, and this quote encapsulates that tension. Collectivist systems, whether social, political, or cultural, often function by controlling who is allowed to pursue certain paths. They decide who can create, who can lead, who can innovate. The individual becomes subject to the permission of the collective. By contrast, radical individualism asserts that each person must claim their own destiny. To ask, "Who will stop me?" is to recognize the existence of the collective's resistance but to dismiss its power to define you. History's great innovators often embodied this principle. When Galileo challenged the prevailing dogmas of his time, he did not wait for permission from the church. When Martin Luther King Jr. led civil rights marches, he did not wait for approval from the state. They acted, and in acting, they challenged the collective authority to halt them. 5. The nature of resistance. By shifting the question, Rand does not deny the reality of obstacles. She acknowledges that there will be forces, social norms, political systems, jealous rivals, that attempt to stop the individual. Yet, by focusing on, "Who will stop me?" rather than, "Who will let me?" she places the emphasis on overcoming. Opposition is not a reason to wait, it is a reason to persist. This reframing transforms adversity into a natural part of the journey. If no one attempts to stop you, perhaps you are not pushing hard enough, not daring enough, not different enough. Greatness is defined by the resistance it overcomes. Thus, obstacles are not permission denied, they are tests of will. 6. The courage to defy. At its deepest level, this philosophy calls for courage, the courage to act without permission, to claim space in a world that often prefers conformity. It demands the rejection of the comfort of waiting. Waiting feels safe because it avoids conflict. But safety is often the enemy of growth. To embrace Rand's mindset is to embrace risk, the risk of failure, rejection, ridicule. Yet it is also to embrace the possibility of greatness. The courage to defy is not reckless rebellion for its own sake. It is not a child throwing tantrums against authority. It is a mature acknowledgement that your life belongs to you. To live under the shadow of others' permission is to betray your own potential. True freedom begins not when others allow you to be free, but when you stop waiting for their consent. In sum, the philosophy behind "the question isn't who is going to let me, it's who is going to stop me" is one of agency, ownership, and defiance against dependency. It is a worldview that rejects the myth of permission, reclaims the sovereignty of choice, and frames resistance not as a barrier but as a proving ground. It insists that the individual is not a subject of the crowd but the master of their own path. The next step is to see how this philosophy translates into the lived experiences of people in different domains, how self-determination becomes not just a lofty ideal but a practical necessity in education, careers, creativity, and social change. The profound philosophical meaning of the quote. The quote. "The question isn't who is going to let me, it's who is going to stop me." This is not just a statement of confidence. It is a revolutionary philosophy of life, reshaping how we view ourselves and the world around us. Point 1. The freedom of thought. From birth, people are placed into molds. Family tells us to be one way, society tells us to act another way. Yet this quote emphasizes that your own mind is the torch that lights your path. No one has the authority to grant you permission to start. When you believe in yourself, you no longer ask for approval. 2. Resistance against control. In society, there will always be laws, conventions, or individuals trying to impose limits on you. But instead of asking, "Who will allow me to do this?" you should ask the opposite. Backhand index pointing right, "Who dares to stop me?" This embodies the spirit of defiance. The courage to break barriers and walk your own road. 3. The aspiration to assert oneself. The quote is also a call to live larger, bolder, with purpose. Successful people do not wait for permission, they act. They don't merely walk the well-paved path, they create new ones. This aspiration allows individuals to transcend limits and leave their unique imprint on the world. 4. A deeper life message. This statement evokes a belief that we do not need to be timid or small. We have the right to define ourselves, not let others set boundaries. Life is a journey of claiming freedom and affirming one's own value. Backhand index pointing right. That is why this quote is not merely a motivational slogan but a guiding principle for anyone seeking to rise, conquer fear, and embrace independence. Applying the quote across different aspects of life. The quote, "The question isn't who is going to let me, it's who is going to stop me," is not only a declaration of self-confidence but also a principle that can be applied to every dimension of human existence. Let's break it down. 1. In career and professional growth. In the workplace, many individuals wait for recognition, approval, or validation before taking initiative. But those who excel understand that leadership is not given, it is taken. Instead of waiting for permission to lead a project, you propose ideas and take charge. Instead of waiting to be noticed, you create value so significant that you cannot be ignored. Barriers such as office politics, competition, or skepticism become challenges to overcome rather than excuses to quit. Backhand index pointing right. In this sense, the quote inspires professionals to be proactive, bold, and visionary in their careers. 2. In education and personal learning. Students are often conditioned to follow curriculums, exams, and approval from teachers. Yet true learning thrives when curiosity breaks free from the classroom. A student who asks questions beyond the textbook already demonstrates the spirit of this quote. A self-learner who studies coding, art, or philosophy without waiting for a teacher embodies the essence of, "Who will stop me?" Education becomes a journey of self-discovery, not just compliance. Backhand index pointing right here, the quote becomes a rallying cry for intellectual freedom. 3. In entrepreneurship and innovation. Entrepreneurs live this philosophy daily. The world rarely permits innovation. Instead, it resists change. Elon Musk was not allowed to build rockets, he did it despite global skepticism. Steve Jobs was not given permission to reinvent technology, he insisted until the world followed. Every startup, every invention, begins with someone who refuses to ask for permission and instead asks, "Who will stop me?" Backhand index pointing right. Entrepreneurship is the battlefield where this quote becomes a survival code. 4. In relationships and social life. Even in relationships, the spirit of independence matters. Too often, people conform to societal expectations of whom to love, how to live, or what is acceptable. True love requires courage to stand against opposition. Friendships based on authenticity, not approval, are what last. Living authentically sometimes means disappointing others, but never betraying yourself. Backhand index pointing right here, the quote is a reminder that no external permission is required to live and love genuinely. 5. In personal growth and inner strength. Finally, the most profound application of this philosophy lies within. Self-doubt is often the harshest prison, and fear is the strongest warden. When you stop asking, "Am I allowed to grow, to change, to be different," and start asking, "Who can stop me from becoming my best self?" you unlock limitless power. No critic, no failure, no rejection can stop a determined spirit. Growth becomes a natural result of relentless self-belief. Backhand index pointing right. In this dimension, the quote becomes a declaration of self-mastery. Sparkles ultimately, whether in work, love, or personal development, this quote is not about arrogance but about liberation. It frees you from the invisible chains of permission-seeking and invites you to step fully into your power. Real-life stories that embody the quote. The question isn't who is going to let me, it's who is going to stop me, is not only poetic but also a lived reality for countless individuals who refuse to wait for permission. Their stories prove that the greatest achievements often come from defiance, persistence, and vision. 1. Steve Jobs, redefining technology. Steve Jobs never asked for permission to change the world of technology. At a time when computers were reserved for specialists, he believed in making them personal and intuitive. When critics dismissed his designs as impractical, Jobs pressed forward. When he was fired from Apple, the company he co-founded, he didn't stop. He went on to create Next and Pixar, both revolutionary in their own right. Eventually, he returned to Apple and led it to become one of the most influential companies in history. Backhand index pointing right. His life is the embodiment of this quote, he didn't wait for approval. He built a reality that no one could deny. 2. Rosa Parks, the power of resistance. On December 1, 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama. At the time, the law demanded segregation. She did not ask, "Will they allow me to sit here?" She silently declared, "Who can stop me from claiming my dignity?" Her act of defiance ignited the Montgomery bus boycott. It became a turning point in the civil rights movement. She proved that ordinary individuals can spark extraordinary change by refusing to bow to unjust authority. Backhand index pointing right. Parks' quiet courage shows how this philosophy fuels social transformation. Point 3. Elon Musk, dreaming beyond limits. Elon Musk's ventures, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, all began as impossible dreams. Critics mocked his goal of colonizing Mars. Investors doubted the viability of electric cars. Governments and industries alike resisted his vision. Yet Musk kept moving, embodying the essence of, "Who will stop me?" Today, his work has reshaped energy, space exploration, and technology. Backhand index pointing right. His journey illustrates that those who refuse to wait for permission end up leading the future. 4. Malala Yousafzai, defying fear for education. In Pakistan, where extremists forbade girls from attending school, Malala Yousafzai stood up. She spoke publicly about the right of girls to learn. Even after being attacked and nearly killed, she did not retreat. She went on to win the Nobel Peace Prize and became a global voice for education. Backhand index pointing right. Malala embodies this philosophy in its purest form. No fear, no oppression, no violence could stop her mission. 5. Everyday heroes. This philosophy isn't limited to world-famous names. It is present in the single parent working multiple jobs to provide for their children, the student who pursues their passion against family expectations, the immigrant who builds a new life from scratch in a foreign land. Backhand index pointing right. Each of these people silently declares, "I will not wait for permission. I will not be stopped." Sparkles. These stories highlight that the true power of this quote lies not just in words, but in action. Greatness belongs to those who move forward, regardless of permission or opposition. 3. Elon Musk, dreaming beyond limits. Elon Musk's ventures, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, all began as impossible dreams. Critics mocked his goal of colonizing Mars. Investors doubted the viability of electric cars. Governments and industries alike resisted his vision. Yet Musk kept moving, embodying the essence of, "Who will stop me?" Today, his work has reshaped energy, space exploration, and technology. Backhand index pointing right. His journey illustrates that those who refuse to wait for permission end up leading the future. 4. Malala Yousafzai, defying fear for education. In Pakistan, where extremists forbade girls from attending school, Malala Yousafzai stood up. She spoke publicly about the right of girls to learn. Even after being attacked and nearly killed, she did not retreat. She went on to win the Nobel Peace Prize and became a global voice for education. Backhand index pointing right. Malala embodies this philosophy in its purest form. No fear, no oppression, no violence could stop her mission. 5. Everyday heroes. This philosophy isn't limited to world-famous names. It is present in the single parent working multiple jobs to provide for their children, the student who pursues their passion against family expectations, the immigrant who builds a new life from scratch in a foreign land. Backhand index pointing right. Each of these people silently declares, "I will not wait for permission. I will not be stopped." Sparkles. These stories highlight that the true power of this quote lies not just in words, but in action. Greatness belongs to those who move forward, regardless of permission or opposition. Practical lessons, how to live by this philosophy. A quote as bold as, "The question isn't who is going to let me, it's who is going to stop me," can feel inspiring, but how do we turn it into a way of life? Here are practical lessons and steps that anyone can adopt. 1. Stop seeking permission. Too often, we wait for approval, from parents, bosses, society, or even friends. But if you want to start a business, start small. If you want to write a book, write one page today. If you want to change careers, begin learning the skills now. Backhand index pointing right. The first rule is simple, don't wait to be told you're ready. Point 2. Redefine failure. Fear of failure often keeps us trapped in hesitation. But when you embrace this philosophy, failure is no longer a dead end, it is a lesson in disguise. Mistakes are not proof you should stop, they are proof you are moving. Each setback becomes part of your resilience story. Backhand index pointing right. Ask not, "What if I fail?" Instead ask, what can possibly stop me from trying again? 3. Build unshakable self-belief. Confidence is not arrogance, it is trust in your own capacity. To strengthen it, set small goals and achieve them consistently. Remind yourself of past victories, however small. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow. Backhand index pointing right. Over time, self-belief becomes a shield against doubt and criticism. 4. Embrace resistance as fuel. When you stop waiting for permission, resistance will inevitably come, critics, doubters, even obstacles from within. Instead of fearing resistance, see opposition as validation that you are breaking new ground. Use criticism as feedback, not as a verdict. Let each challenge sharpen your determination. Backhand index pointing right. Remember, no one tries to stop those who don't matter. 5. Take bold, decisive action. Action is the true test of philosophy. Boldness is contagious. Speak up in meetings when you have an idea. Launch the side project you've been delaying. Take the first step toward the vision that excites you. Backhand index pointing right. The world respects action, not hesitation. 6. Align with a higher purpose. This philosophy is not about selfish rebellion. It is about living authentically and contributing meaningfully. Ask yourself, what is the vision that excites me? What problem in the world can I help solve? How can my courage inspire others to break free too? Backhand index pointing right. When your life is aligned with purpose, no obstacle feels powerful enough to stop you. Sparkles in practice. Living this philosophy means becoming a person who acts boldly, learns fearlessly, and refuses to let external permission define their destiny. Conclusion: a call to courage. The question isn't who is going to let me, it's who is going to stop me. This quote is more than words. It is a fire, a challenge, and a reminder that you don't need permission to live your truth. You don't need approval to chase your dreams. The only real obstacles are those you allow to stand in your way. When you stop asking, who will let me, you reclaim your power. You step out of the shadows of doubt and conformity. You embrace a mindset where no one holds the keys to your destiny except you. The great innovators, leaders, and changemakers of history did not wait to be told it was possible. They simply asked. Backhand index pointing right, who can stop me? And moved forward until even the impossible bent to their will. Now the same question rests with you. In your work, your relationships, your growth, and your dreams, will you keep waiting for permission, or will you rise and claim your path? Sparkles, the answer is yours to give. And the world is waiting for your courage.